me a god. Let's go. I'm about to go off like a weapon. Fuel to the top, got a filled up engine. In my thoughts, obsession. I will not stop, no, I'm never second guessing. I got a God complex. Haters love to hate, but I never feel pressed. Got a lot on my plate, but I never get stressed. I'll take all the pressure like I'm acing this test. Tear it up like I'm Jason. I see the world like it's ready for the taking. I see this place like a game I'm playing. Straight to the bank to collect my payments. No negotiations, it's my way, I was born impatient. And like a damn Freemason, I'll run this nation. They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Hello guys, welcome to my review of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, the original last film of the franchise, until they kind of, basically changed things, yeah. But yeah. At first, when I first watched this, I was like, man, this is not really as fun as the previous ones. Even though it kind of starts off, really well with a young Indiana Jones. Yeah, I'd say he does a decent job, and we kind of get introduced to the original Indiana Jones. But this is basically Indiana Jones as a flipping young kid, yeah. As a teen, I guess. Because they actually make a show after this movie, years later, with basically a little kid Indiana to go up to like this version of Indiana to then the one that we know and love, I guess. Yeah. And man, this movie, Uncharted 3 and 4 kind of take a lot from this movie. I don't know why it keeps skipping all the way to the end, and then kind of see the, like Indiana's original inspiration, which I guess it gives that hat to Indiana. Yeah, because he basically meets someone who basically makes him become Indiana Jones, and just that whole train scene was pretty cool. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. But you can see that they're trying to be a lot more goofy, and you kind of see how Indiana is scared of snakes, because one actually ends up injuring him, and you're just seeing the whole evolution. It's just from the final film, the original final film. It's basically the final film of the trilogy, because they do make another one afterwards, and we're gonna get a new one in a few months. But yeah, just the way how this first movie, this first scene goes to set up like Indiana's how it all started basically. It's a good scene. I didn't appreciate it when I first watched it, but rewatching it again, it's a good scene. Yeah, it kind of sets up the whole universe well for why he became Indiana Jones, and basically trying to be with his inspiration. Yeah, and he actually ends up stealing the thing that the other Indiana Jones gets. I mean, I don't think it's called Indiana Jones, and this is like our introduction to like his dad as well, kind of not really allowing him to be what he wants to be, but he just goes for it anyway and just ends up leaving his dad and stuff. And then the transition into him as the Indiana Jones we know and love is just so good, and Uncharted 4 kind of uses this as well for when we see him as a kid to then like when he's in prison, like that scene, if you know what I mean. Yeah, it's just a pretty good transition scene. Yeah, when he puts on the hat to continue the legacy, and they kind of make a callback like this in the fourth film, but you'll see how that goes anyway. It's just the way how he puts on the hat, and then it just transitions to the Indiana Jones we know and love. It's just perfect. Yeah, him in danger and stuff. Yeah, but then he ends up getting out of it anyway, and then you just see him in his old school, because his other job. Then he finds out about a new thing that he needs to find, I guess. And he kind of teams up with someone who he thought he could trust. It's just, the early movie is not really that interesting to me. I don't mostly pay attention to it. And we just see a cave full of rats and stuff, and, some of his new accomplices. We do also see some of, like, the old ones come back from the first movie. Yeah. Like that, the guy who was helping him in the first movie, yeah. Like, he comes back. But yeah, basically get into this temple to actually find something that's tied to something important, and yeah, you just see him escape afterwards once they've got what they wanted. Then it just gets to a point where you seem like you should trust her, but she ends up betraying Indiana. But then that's when he kind of encounters his father afterwards. Yeah, just when the father comes in, that's when the movie just becomes a lot better, because I was kind of mostly bored and not really paying attention to the movie up until this point, because this is when the movie truly comes to life, and it kind of sucks. Like, you have to wait 48 minutes for the movie to actually get really good and on the level of the first one. Yeah, because Temple of Doom, like, that movie started like so over the top, like how the fourth one is, to, you know, being a really dark and horror movie. It's just, yeah, the tone of that one was nothing like Indiana Jones. Yeah, just like the fourth one. No, but I still really enjoyed Temple of Doom because of Shorty, yeah, and just having such a different vibe. Yeah, and then this one just starts off like, it starts off, you know, really lively, but then it kind of falls flat, and then it just gets to this part, and it's the rest of the movie is just so good. It's when I actually got really, you know, into the movie, because the late person who played as the original James Bond, rest in peace, like, he ends up playing as Indiana Jones' dad, and he ends up being probably the best side character, supporting character in probably the whole franchise. Like, my god, just Junior, is you Junior, just the whole scene and all of his dialogue throughout the whole movie. It's just so funny, man. I can't believe you did that. Like, just everything, and him not really being impressed of Indiana and stuff, because Indiana always tried to, like, you know, impress his father, but he was just never impressed, and you just see it throughout the movie as well. Yeah, just seeing their relationship throughout the movie, it's just so good. Yeah, they have the best scenes in the movie. Just that scene when, you know, when actually he guns down the Nazis and stuff, but then he surrenders himself because he thought, like, the person that, you know, liked him ends up betraying him. Like, his love interest of this movie, kind of like a Chloe Price move, but, well, Chloe Fraser, sorry, not Chloe Price, that's flipping Life is Strange, but yeah. She ends up betraying him, but it's not like she actually redeems herself later on. Like, she betrayed him, yeah. And they go a bit too far with that in the next movie too, yeah. Because you find out that she's actually working with the Nazis, so they've basically been back some of the Nazis from the first film, to the point where you even get to see Hitler. Like, oh my god, when it gets to that part. Then you see some of you know, some of the older allies from the other movies, like Marcus and them, yeah. Callas, or however you say his name, I always say his name wrong, but yeah. Like, they're trying to look for Indiana and help him. Well, they're trapped with these guys, yeah. But they end up escaping in such a funny way, yeah. To the point where they're kind of flipping turning around in the Nazi base, and none of them see it straight away. That's a funny scene. And then they all try to attack them, but they end up escaping. Yeah, it's a funny scene. And then, like, Indiana, like, using, like, the flipping boat as a decoy instead of using the boat to escape. That was a smart move, yeah. Because then he actually drives away in a bike. It's just all the scenes, man. And then he's sort of not really being impressed of what he's doing, I guess. Yeah. Yeah, the father's a fun character. And just seeing, like, them talk about the past and, you know, the mother who he never really got to properly grieve. And that's why their relationship is just not really the best, because probably since the mother died, they've probably been really apart since. And now it's got to a point where they're finally together again, and they've got a lot of baggage to basically let out from that time. And it gets to a point where Indiana, you know, he basically escaped, and, you know, he actually gets back to her to get information. And then it gets to a point where they flipping meet Hitler. Like, Hitler basically gives Indiana Jones an autograph, but he doesn't really know that, you know, it's Indiana Jones. I mean, does he even know of Indiana Jones? But yeah, just seeing Hitler, like, what the hell? That was a crazy scene. Giving Indiana Jones an autograph, though. That was just funny. Of the thing that he actually wanted to, because that's actually the thing that Hitler wanted, and he didn't even realize. Yeah. And this scene is just so funny when basically one of the Nazis actually find Indiana, but then he pretends to be like a flight attendant and actually throws out the Nazi. Like, that's probably one of the funniest scenes in the franchise, because he finds his dad, but then he basically, you know, Indiana throws him out because, you know, he's pretending to be a flight attendant. It's just, the whole scene's just so funny, man. Yeah. Yeah, it's such a classic scene. Just knocks him out and then just throws him out, and then he makes a joke about, if you don't have tickets, you're gonna end up out there, lol. It's just such a funny scene, lol. It didn't have any tickets, and everyone's just like, oh, here's my ticket. It's just a funny scene, man. Yeah. And then the part where they're basically trying to escape on the plane when they're getting shot at, it's just, that's a funny scene because the dad accidentally flipping shoots the wing of the plane when he's using the gun. And yeah, that's just such a funny scene, man. Because he didn't even know what he was talking about as well, like when he said 11 o'clock, and he just ends up messing up the whole thing and just shoots the plane. It's just, man. And he just acts like, oh, we got hit. Like it wasn't him who actually shot the plane. Yeah, it's just a funny scene, lol. Yeah, I just love their chemistry in this movie. It's so much fun. And then the part where they're trying to escape again. Like, man. On the flipping car, and then the flipping plane crashes. Just, man. It's just, the movie's so much fun at this point. It's just, it sucks that it takes a long time to really get into it. For me, anyway. For some people, they're probably like, oh, it's fine, because they're trying to set up the movie first before we get to the good stuff. But man, they make us wait a long time. Because you did have the beginning, I guess, and if I rewatch this, I probably appreciate this movie a lot more now. And how much important the beginning actually was. And then, even though it's slow for like 30 minutes, the rest of the movie is just a lot of fun, yeah. Oh, the tank part, yeah, that was a fun part too. When they're trying to take out the tank, and you end up destroying it, like, oh my god. To the point where they get captured again, because basically Indiana's dad gets captured and is actually in the tank, and Indiana's trying to get him out first. Yeah. So he's trying to be careful, but then it gets to a point where it seems like Indiana gets in danger while trying to help his father, because they do end up, taking care of the tank. But like I said, it gets to a point where it looks like Indiana's about to die. And he somehow just gets out of that, because that's just everything that happens, man. And then flipping, his dad thinks he dies after the tank falls down. Yeah. And you actually see him grieve his son and saying a lot of things that he never really got to say to his son. Like, such a heartbreaking scene. Probably the most emotional scene in the whole franchise. Yeah. Kind of like with Uncharted 3 with Sully and Drake. Like, just a lot of that stuff, like with Sully and Drake, is why Uncharted 3 is like my favourite Uncharted. And just seeing a lot of that with how it was inspired from this film with Indiana and his dad, like, man, done so well. And actually getting to see his son alive and just being so happy that he's alive and he's just like, what? My son's alive, yeah. Because for a lot of time he took it for granted, yeah. And he's just happy that he's alive, yeah. And then just move on to like the final part of the movie, yeah. And they end up getting captured again. But they're supposed, and then I guess the dad ends up getting shot, which is like a shocking moment. And basically, to be able to save his dad, he needs to like find the cup that will save his his dad, so he can live. And just seeing him go through all that struggle, man, oh my god, all the traps, to then like get to the point where he has to, actually pick the right cup. And then they just go for all the traps afterwards because Indiana's already took care of them all. And then I guess they end up drinking the wrong cup and they end up getting screwed. Yeah. And then he actually finds flipping one of the old knights. Like, we're getting to that point where he's literally seen knights who have been guarding this flipping place. Like, oh my god. And it's something that I guess Indiana's dad has been trying to discover all this time. And he actually achieves it. Yeah, I mean, he actually gets there and sees it. Then you just see them basically choose the cup to the one who will have like eternal life and stuff. And then he ends up choosing the most fanciest glass, and of course it wouldn't be the most fanciest one, and he ends up dying because he basically chooses the one glass. It ends up killing him. Just, yeah, one of those deaths where it's just like so gruesome. I just see him flipping turn old. Like, I've seen this so many times, like that scene, yeah. Even before watching the movie, I knew like someone was gonna die like that, but then he chooses the white glass, and he's basically able to save his father by giving it to his father, because I wasn't sure if he was gonna make it out of this movie, yeah, which he does, thankfully. Then it gets to a point where the whole place starts crumbling down because of what she does. She kind of sets up something that ends up breaking the whole thing, and then she's trying to flipping get the cup because that's what she really cares about, and then she ends up dying because of it. She ends up falling down, and then flipping Indiana ends up in the same situation too afterwards. And for the first time, because for the whole movie, and probably for a lot of his life, Indiana was called by his dad Junior, and he never really appreciated what Indiana wanted it to be called, like Indiana, but he always called him Junior. And in this moment, Indiana's about to basically nearly sacrifice himself just to get the cup, but then for the first time, his dad is like Indiana instead of Junior, because if he said Junior, he probably wouldn't have listened, because like when I was trying to get that cup, there was kind of like in some kind of trance to get it, and which would end up, you know, causing their death. Yeah. And basically Indiana ends up in the same situation, but the only reason why he listens is because for the first time in probably his whole life, he's actually called him Indiana, the name that he prefers, and that's when he actually listens to his father, because his father's basically given up the thing that he's been wanting like his whole life, that treasure, but he'd rather have his son instead. It's just such a good scene, man. Yeah, such a well done scene. And just seeing him go off in the sunset on the horses, just like Uncharted 3. Yeah, I mean Uncharted 3 ends with a flipping plane, but yeah, just the way how it ends, it's a really good ending. Yeah, and a good film. Because yeah, the one that comes after this one, it's not brilliant. It's got a lot of flaws, but I still find it fun. I find all the films fun. Watch them in this generation, you really appreciate even the worst Indiana Jones moments. Yeah, because yeah, the franchise goes a bit too far in its last one. Like, my god, I mean, they bring back an OG character like Miriam, but then just a lot of the premise is what is probably the biggest problem for a lot of people, and that infamous scene with the fridge, which I guess we're finally gonna get to. Yeah, that would be fun. But yeah, man, at the end of the day, it's a great franchise that I finally got to watch for the first time last week. Yeah, I love it, man. Happy I got to experience them, man. There's a lot of other franchises that I need to experience for the first time, and I'm happy that I can, while this generation is not so good. Yeah. Hopefully we'll get a lot of better movies in the next few years. I mean, we still get some good movies, but most of them are pretty trash. Yeah, with woke messages and stuff. And at least there's some out there like Everything Everywhere All at Once, Puss in Boots, Top Gun Maverick, which I still haven't watched yet, Creed 3, John Wick 4, all them movies that are actually just being movies instead of having like certain messages to push for modern audiences. Yeah, they're just instead they're just trying to be great movies like these Indiana Jones movies. Even some of the ones that people say are probably like Indiana Jones at its worst, they're way better than some of the movies that are coming out now. Even some of the old superhero movies that people used to hate. Fantastic Four, which I always liked. X-Men The Last Stand, which I probably would like a bit more now, even though it's not perfect. Spider-Man 3, definitely, yeah. A lot of those films probably have aged better because of how bad films have actually got, especially with Marvel. Oh my god, Doctor Strange 2 and all them, yeah. Oh, but yeah, happy I got to watch these films and review the original trilogy. I'm still going to review the recent film that came out in like, was it 2008? Which is it's like, how many years old at this point? 12, 13 or something? Well, I think it'd be a bit older, but yeah. I guess we'll be getting to that. So yeah, hope you enjoyed my reviews of the Indiana Jones trilogy. Appreciate if you can leave a like. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.